That'll work. Catch him up. Okay, got to accept that disclaimer there. Good afternoon, everyone. I call this meeting to order at 1:32 p.m. We'll go ahead and get rolling. Start with our roll call first. Let's see. I'm here. Jason James is
Here.
not here. Oh, yep. Sorry, you are here. My bad. And Dunno, I do not believe we have yet. Rick Barrett.
Yes.
Nate Reisner is not here, but we have Brendan Foley filling in, correct?
Yes.
Okay, Jess McNeely is no longer with the county. Thank you, Brendan. Dan Folk, I have not seen join us yet. Jeff Bauman.
I'm here.
And it looks like Andrew Iacona just joined us. Thank you, Andrew. And Ed Stillings.
Yes, good afternoon.
Welcome, Ed. Moving on to Metro Plan staff, Jeff Miles Milebeck,
I'm here, thank you.
Dave Wessel,
Here?
and Rosie Ware.
Yeah, Rosie's online. I believe Jeff Bauman is also here.
Present, sorry about that.
Yeah, Jeff, did I skip you? I'm sorry.
No, you didn't skip me, and I said hello. Did you not? Am I not coming through?
I heard
Yeah.
it, thought, but I might be going
I
crazy.
missed it. I missed it. That's me.
Dave.
Okay, with that, that'll take us into public comment in case anyone wishes to chime in here. And then Dave, was this kind of the spot where you were suggesting that I jump in and Jason as well?
No, at the end of the meeting, there's a time for items from the committee.
Okay, perfect. We'll wait till then. Is there any public comment though besides that? All right, perfect. Moving on to D, approval of last meeting's minutes from September 22nd. Hopefully we've all been able to review the minutes in case you had any questions, but seeking a motion for approval of last meeting's minutes.
This is Jeff. I'd move to approve the minutes from September.
Thank you, Jeff. Do we have a second?
This is Jason. I'll second.
Okay, motion to approve last meeting's minutes from September 22nd. Motion by Jeff Bauman, second by Jason James. Any further discussion? We'll take that to a vote. Those in favor, aye.
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 And any opposed? With that, the motion carries. Last meeting minutes are approved.
Mr. Chairman, Dave, I just wanted to make sure you knew that we could see your screen and it wasn't the TAC agenda, but it's back now.
Yeah. My apologies.
Thank you, no worries. Consent agenda, it doesn't look like we have any items under there today. And that will take us to general business. Item A, Jeff, your name is listed here.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the TAC, we do have a public information program and a draft of that program has been provided as an attachment to the staff report. And we're looking to share that information with the TAC and request support from the TAC for the approach. I believe that we have our consultant, Kristen Dar, who's going to do a presentation. Is that correct, Dave?
At this time, I don't see her on the participant list. I'm happy to make the presentation.
Can I just ask Dave, would you like to just see if she shows up and then we can come back to this item, or do you just want to jump in?
Well, no, we can do that as well.
All right, Mr. Chairman, are you okay with us just moving to item B and coming back to item A?
Yes, I am. Let's move on to item B, adoption of ADOT safety targets. Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As part of federal legislation governing metropolitan planning organizations and state highway DOTs, performance targets are required to be adopted by both agencies, including targets for safety. Some time ago, the MPO elected to follow and essentially adopt the state targets. for safety and other measures such as pavement condition and congestion. Part of the reason for that is the reporting and data collection requirements. ADOT has recently updated their safety targets. Going to present those here in your staff report, and looking for the staff to, looking for the TAC to adopt those safety targets. So those targets are here in the staff report. You should see them on screen now for 2022. They're looking at a 2% increase in fatalities, and as well as a 2% increase in the rate of fatalities, 7% decrease in serious injuries, and an 8% decrease in the rate of those serious injuries, and a 1% decrease in the number of non-motorized bicycle pedestrian fatalities and serious injuries. They arrive at these targets by looking at 5-year rolling averages for all of these, and do their best to consider the influence of programs like the Highway Safety Improvement Program. So at this point, staff is recommending adoption of these safety targets, and we'll look for a motion to adopt them from the TAC.
Thank you, Dave. Is there any discussion on what's been presented?
Mr. Chair, I have a question. This is Jeff.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I remember adopting these previously, Dave, the states, and I remember kind of a detailed discussion about why we do that, and I think it's still appropriate. But I was wondering, is there an annual report that we get on our region that comes from ADOT, because we're going with their targets, so they do all the work essentially? Is there a report that comes out? I didn't see that as part of the packet. I just don't remember seeing it pop up periodically to show how we are doing in relation to these state targets.
Mr. Chair, Member Bauman, that's an excellent question. I don't recall seeing detailed reports by region. I'll look to Jason James to see if he's aware of such reports are being prepared.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one. I know, yeah, on a state level, we've had those reports. And I'll check in with my colleagues on that to see if I can get a copy of that. As far as district by district, I'm not aware. I have to really kind of, I got to look into that, see if we actually have something more district specific. So yeah, I'll check into that and I'll get back with you on that. Nate and Brendan, anything from the district as far as any type of report like this in the past few years?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not aware of anything either.
Okay, yeah, I just wasn't sure if I had missed it. I don't really think about this except when you brought it to us to see if we want to accept the state targets or do our own. And we've always, I think, said, yeah, let's stick with the state targets, because doing our own would require both figuring out a way to set realistic local targets and reporting out on them. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. And Dave, I guess I have a question for you on this. That I do see we have the rates in here that's kind of helpful in standardizing it. I think it's always unfortunate when numbers are expected to go up. However, our population is increasing. How is this kind of weighing against the population increase in Arizona? Is it outpacing it? Are we still seeing an overall decrease? Or what are your thoughts on that?
I believe we're seeing, I think it's about on pace with population increase. There is a PowerPoint presentation that I'll circulate to the TAC so you can see the numbers. I don't believe it has population in it, but you can kind of see the rolling averages and where they came from. And I will say, Mr. Chair, that these are, I believe, an improvement over last year's targets. So it's encouraging, and hopefully it continues in that same direction.
Any further questions or comments for Dave?
Hi, all. Sorry, Mr. Nick, I was late. And I did hear this conversation. I have a question. Why would our goal be to increase it's just the way this reads, the number of fatalities where our goal is to increase 2% increase, or we're allowing a 2% increase. It's just the way this reads. Sounds really odd.
Mr. Chair, Member Donnell, I can't disagree with that. But this is the language that the state uses. We do have an option as an MPO to take on our own targets. I think the objective here is part of that. From the state perspective, it's taking a pretty hard fiscal look at this. How many projects are actually being implemented that can move this needle? And by and large, it's an engineering approach. The governor's office of highway safety is taking more of that education approach, but it's a big state with relatively small investment, and so the ability to move the needle is very incremental.
Thanks. No, I support what Jeff and everybody is saying, is to support the ADOT goals and not do our own, but just for clarification.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Then Dave, I do believe you're looking for a motion for the TAC to adopt the ADOT goals for the TAC. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Seeking a motion from one of our members.
Mr. Chair, this is Rick Barrett. I move to approve the goals as mentioned in the agenda.
Thank you, Rick. Do we have a second?
This is Jeff Palman. I'll second.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, we have the motion by Rick Barrett to approve the goals as outlined by staff and adopted by the TAC, second by Jeff Bauman. We'll take that to a vote. Those in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all. Okay. We'll move on to item C, and I guess Jeff and Dave, if either of you can let me know when we're ready to come back to A, just let me know, please.
Okay, will do, Mr. Chairman and members of the TAC, the Milton Corridor Master Plan update. This will be fairly brief. The staff report is actually pretty much identical to what I shared last month. There have been some changes to ADOT. The plan is in final draft form, and we're waiting on an escalation meeting to deal with an issue that some of the member agencies requested related to pedestrian crossings. And that escalation meeting is still pending, being scheduled by ADOT. So I don't have any more news than that, but I would turn it over to or open it up for ADOT, perhaps Jason or someone else on the team who, if you have more information to share.
Yeah, this is Jason. Nothing to report at this time. Again, we're just waiting on that meeting. Once we have that meeting concluded, then we can finalize a report. So I have really nothing further to add to Jeff's report. Nate, Brendan, anything else to add?
No, I don't have anything else to add.
No, I have nothing.
You is any discussion? If not, we'll move on to item D, Sunshine Transport Corporate Solutions. Jeff?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Dave is putting the staff report up on the screen, And essentially what I'm asking for is for this group to support my decision on how to be involved in a possible steering committee for the STSC project. And a little bit of background here. This item is relatively new and there's not a specific measurable objective related to it. However, as I say in the staff report, and I'll underscore verbally, we do have a mission or a vision of creating the finest transportation system in the country. And STSC is a private company that's interested in possibly deploying their technology in the Flagstaff area and doing it driverless vehicles, privately funded, fixed guideway. So it's very ambitious. And I think a lot of people in the room know, and certainly our Mountain Line representative does, Flagstaff or Mountain Line has studied this over the years. And what we've come up with and what Mountain Line has come up with is bus rapid transit. Seems like the most viable solution. And maybe the most ambitious solution that would be feasible in our community. However, this company, STSC, wants to explore the possibility of using driverless vehicles. And it's intriguing. And since we are MetroPlan as a planning organization, and we have the vision that we do, it makes sense to me to engage, just seems appropriate, with the steering committee as this company looks at exploring their technology. Now, I don't know exactly what that means. I don't know exactly what their steering committee is going to look like, what their recommendation is going to be. And that's why I'm having this discussion with you all today and spelling out. And what I'm going to ask my board for is just to say, yes, you're the executive director, participate in this thing as it seems reasonable, and keep it posted on what happens. That's, I guess the alternative would be that my board or this group actually could say, you know what, we want the executive director to really get involved in and, lead this effort and, make sure you make it a priority, which is the alternative two. Or this group or the board could say, I really don't want you involved at all. I will say that the board and this group already supported that we get this on our list of something to be at least slightly engaged in the coming year. You approved this in some of our project priorities last month. So it might be a little bit overkill for me to bring this staff report to you, but I just wanted to be transparent and say that I think I'd really like, I guess, to be supported by the TAC and my board and saying, keep your eye on it, serve on the steering committee if it makes sense, keep us posted, and let's just see how things play out. So that's my request to this group, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Discussion? Go ahead, Ann.
Thanks, Chairman Hall. Thank you, Jeff, for a little more detail about this group and kind of what they're proposing and wanting just to explore. In talking internally with Mountain Line after the last meeting we had at TAC, and since then, I believe the management committee met, and maybe my GM may have heard more about this as well. We've really got, I think, some feedback for the TAC to consider. Very high level of, I think about, we talk about wanting to create the finest transportation system, as part of the overall goal of MetroPlan. And, Mountain Line's role is to deliver public transit. And, looking at this type of solution, again, the details may or may would get vetted, but we really question if this is a public transit solution, a public transportation solution, I should say. So I think fundamentally there's some things about this concept that are, contradictory to our mission and vision as Mountain Line. So that just wanted to lay that background. And I think also, hearing a little bit more about, the effort and what they're asking, given all of our priorities with Metro Plan in our community for all the needs for our transportation system, I wonder about the level of effort putting into really vetting something like this versus working on some of our other very complex multimodal and, transportation projects that we have out there that we're still working, underpasses, pedestrian crossings, things that are definitely proving challenging for our, multiple agencies to work together on. So I guess from a prioritization, like overall, and then also the staff capacity, again, maybe it could be a limited, more of that number one under the alternative. But it would take time and energy for, people to look at this. So I look at that. And the other piece is the confusion, that's the potential confusion from at least Mountain Line's perspective on the zoning aspect that Northern Arizona Healthcare is going through with the city, that, there are discussions about how does public transit play into, that new development. And not trying to muddy the waters with that conversation for traditional public transit. So I think, from where we're sitting, Mountain Line is definitely leaning on the number 3 alternative at this point after looking at it again. I think we could support number 1 on the alternatives, but, I would have to say anything more, I think we would not be supportive of this. So I just wanted to lay that out there. And the other thing too, I wanted to mention is the procurement aspect of this. I get, this is a private entity that's approached Metro Plan from a big picture. I don't know enough about Metro Plan's procurement requirements, but what does this mean? Do we open ourselves up for any groups to come forward to present ideas and take, time and energy to review when there's not a formal procurement out for this? And that could maybe fall under some sort of unsolicited proposal or something. And I get it's just purely to explore, but again, it's just that aspect as well, just having one company come forward and say, hey, let's spend public agency time on this to explore this idea. So I wanted to throw that out there. Curious if any partners have any response to that.
And I actually really strongly agree with what your thoughts have been on that. And I think, again, supporting that alternative 1 with the potential to revisit this in the future of, again, do we pull back even further, or is it something we pursue further? That I think whatever motion carries today, that we still reevaluate this as we move forward too, and see how the workload changes or not.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is I'm leaning towards moving to alternative 3, unless you wanted to open it up for other discussion. So.
Also, the section is for here that we need to see what the sense of the TAC is, and we'll discuss and then see what motion we move with for which alternative. Like to hear from the other TAC members.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to hear from the other TAC members too. I also definitely would like to respond to some of Ann Dunham's points.
Well, Jeff, why don't we let you go ahead and respond first, and then we'll have the other TAC members jump in.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the comments, and I think what I'm hearing is, Mountain Line's vision and mission is somewhat different than Metro Plan's. And there are some concerns that this technology might be not public. And you are Mountain Line and, Metro Plan, frankly, are responsible for a transportation system that supports everybody. With that as a core reason, I think that's why we actually need to do a steering committee. I think at this point, if we were just to say, you know what, there's a risk of A, B, or C, so we don't even want to really discuss the idea, that would be inappropriate to me. Similarly, just embracing it and saying, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, well, let's do it, would also be inappropriate. And that's why I'm saying, let's explore it more. And I'm going to be asking my board to just, give me the room to engage as seems appropriate with, appropriate caution. And that this is a new technology. We don't quite yet know what we're dealing with. But we also don't want to just shut ideas down before they even get a chance to start. At least I don't. So that's my point. Thank you.
Jeff. Dan, looks like you'd like to chime in. You want to go ahead?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I think I turned my camera on. I don't know. Can you?
Yep.
see?
Yep, we can see you.
Nice to
There
see
you
you.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree that, when these opportunities come along, there's little risk in finding out more about it and participating. I do hear what you're saying, Ann, and we need to continue to support our public transportation system, right? Mountain Line. Is the steering committee, Jeff, is it specific to bringing this to Flagstaff, or is it a larger scope steering committee looking to bring this somewhere around the country?
Mr. Chairman and Dan, what I understand is that this is a steering committee that's specifically looking at the possibility of bringing it to Flagstaff.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think going to some meetings to kind of see what's going on feels pretty low risk, but yeah, I wouldn't necessarily put a whole lot of time into it until we know more about it, but I support you attending.
So Dan, can I ask a follow-up question and this is again, very high level about the city's approval process long-term with NAH. I mean, how do you see any risk that this creates, I don't know, a confusion with respect to their future development applications and how their mitigations are with transportation, TIA, and transit?
I mean, I don't know. Are they proposing service to and from NAH? This group? I don't know anything about what they're proposing. So, I mean, we have a huge issue with the NAH project and figuring out how to get public transportation to it, right? Public transit. It hasn't been solved yet, but that's going to be a big part of the discussion as that entitlement goes forward.
Because I understood this group approached NAH first, and then, or maybe it was simultaneous to MetroPlan, for the purposes of trying to reach the hospital, right?
All I know is there's no way this kind of system can be less expensive to implement than a mountain line route. I can't believe it. The infrastructure involved for what I just read in the one-page handout. But I guess private capital and investors, that's their plan.
Mr. Chair, I guess Miles wants to jump in if I could respond after Miles.
Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
Jeff.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in discussions with STSC, this is a feasibility study that they are looking at Arizona in general because of its kind of pro-technology perspective with things like connected and automated vehicles. They're looking at a place like Flagstaff for a variety of reasons, carbon neutrality being one, some intensive uses like the university and the hospital being another. And so part of what they want to do is what they've described, to my understanding, to be a feasibility study. And so they would take a use case that might be running from the DCC to the hospital, running from the DCC through campus, and then looking at, well, what would the capital expense be? What would the operating costs be? What would the demand be? And that's where they're interested in having, some input and information from an organization like MetroPlan. And then what would the financing costs and fare structure need to be in order to make this, at least in their eyes, a profitable private enterprise. I think Member Dunno raises some excellent public policy questions that, should we get to that point, definitely need to be raised and grappled with. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. Jeff?
I actually, thank you. I don't really have anything to add. I think Dave covered it.
Other members of the TAC? Okay, if there's no further discussion, then we will be looking for a motion on this to support one of these alternatives or amended, but looking for a motion for direction to provide to Jeff on this.
All right, I'll go ahead and make a motion to support alternative one. This is Dan.
Thank you, Dan. Do we have a second?
I'll second it, Mr. Chair. This is Rick.
Thank you, Rick. All right, motion on the table by Dan Folk to support alternative one, supporting the executive director's role on the steering committee as seems appropriate to the executive director. Second by Rick Barrett. We'll go ahead and put it to a vote. Those in favor, aye.
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 Those opposed,
Nay.
one nay from Ann Dunno. Motion carries. All right, thank you all. Okay, that will take us on to item E, the 2022 calendar consideration. Rosie?
You Chair. I will keep this brief. This is a recurring item that we do every year. Dave, would you actually put the calendar up? So this is our first draft of the annual calendar to be put out for 2022. I'd just like to bring two items for you to consider today. And the first is that we want to continue holding our meetings, our technical advisory committee meetings on the fourth Wednesday of the month from 1:30 to 3:30. So that's the first part. And the second part is we do have a tentative date that you don't see on here for the strategic advance being in April. That's the month that I've been asked to consider. So with that, I'd like to open it up for discussion. Is there any requests for change? And then with that, you have a few choices, of course. You can either choose to stick with this current schedule and move forward. Thank you, Dave. Or you can amend it if there's a consensus on making changes, or we could just wait, right? It's a little early. It's only October. We do have one more meeting next month where you can actually make a decision. And with that, I will turn it back to you, Chair Hall, to open it up for discussion.
Any discussion from the TAC? Anyone see any conflicts in there? Any major conflicts? Awesome. Then we'll be looking for a motion to approve as presented to us.
This is Anne. I move to approve.
Okay, do we have a second?
This is Jason. I'll second.
All right. Motion by Ann Dunno to approve the presented TAC calendar for next year. Second by Jason James. Those in favor, aye.
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 Those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you very much. And before we keep moving on, I do want to jump back real quick just to the approved minutes from earlier. And looking for some help from you on this one. I believe we need to do just a quick amendment to the approved motion from earlier. And you caught a typo in there. Would you mind presenting that or just explain that to us real quick?
Sure. Sorry, this was the approval of the meeting minutes. I apologize, I was late. I noticed in the announcements that it was announced that we were awarded phase 2 of the campus bus, a grant for campus bus, and it's actually phase 1, which is the CDL and road. So I think it was, I forgot what page. It's under,
All the items from the.
yeah, it was, yeah, items from the
Yeah.
committee. Yeah,
Items from the committee.
and phase 1 of NAU bus project.
I'm sorry, there's some chatter going on. I'm gonna ask people to mute if they're not talking. Thank you.
It should just say phase 1 right there.
And I guess I'll ask if there's any discussion from the TAC first on this item. Okay, and would you mind presenting that as a motion just to amend the approval from earlier?
Sure, I make a motion to amend the prior approved motion to approve the meeting minutes to correct the meeting minutes for phase 1 of NAU bus project instead of phase 2.
Thank you, Ann. Can we get a second on that?
This is Jeff, I'll second.
Thank you, Jeff. Motion by Ann Deno to amend the approval of the approved minutes from earlier, correcting phase 1, not phase 2 for the campus bus grant. Second by Jeff Bauman. Those in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you. Just a bit of housekeeping there.
Thank you. I read the
With that, we'd like to move on to item F. Thank you, Ann. Appreciate it. With that, Jeff, turning to you, do we want to move on to item F or go back to item A?
Mr. Chair,
Dave.
we did receive notice from our consultant. She had a family emergency, needs to take her dog to the vet. I'm happy to make that presentation on the public improvement plan if the executive director would like me to.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Dave, I think if we jump back up to A, if that works, now would be a good time.
Okay.
Yes, let's move back to item A, public information program update. Dave?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The the strategic objective here is to complete the regional transportation plan by the end of next calendar year. Vital part of that is the public involvement plan and or the PIP. And just want to give you an update on that and get your feedback or support for the approach. So I'm going to stop sharing the agenda and share this screen. And are you seeing the presentation? How about now? You seeing the presentation?
yes.
Excellent. Okay. Now are you seeing the presentation? Or are you seeing my notes?
I can see
No.
the slides, Dave.
You just see the slide? Okay.
We're seeing it in
Well-
presenter mode from what I'm seeing.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens here. So just an overview, we're going to give an introduction to the PIP, the Public Involvement Plan, talk about its relationship to the International Association of Public Participation, or IAP2, some tools in the toolbox and how we're going to schedule those into the process, and next steps and milestones. So as part of this public participation plan or public involvement plan, this plan is going to be inclusive and multifaceted. We're going to meet the definitions, federal definitions and requirements. The RTP, or Regional Transportation Plan, is one of our required documents, and there are guidance that we need to meet. And so this plan will help us do that, both regarding the involvement itself as well as the achievement of other requirements. Our guiding principles is to make sure that we're providing access into the process, that we're being equitable in terms of the people who can access the plan, that we are honest and transparent, that we're credible, that we're providing information, again, in an honest, transparent way, but that's also got some intellectual consistency or credibility to it. And that we're sincere, that we're trying to inspire people to take their information seriously and not either ignore or manipulate them. We want to be flexible and adaptable throughout the planning process. As we know, COVID threw a big curve into how we normally do public participation. And in some ways, it's by means of these virtual engagements, we're actually engaging with more people in new and exciting ways. Who knows what's going to happen in the next year, but we want to be flexible and adaptable as we hear from the public and might need to change how we're reaching out or what questions we're asking. We're trying to engage as broad a group of stakeholders in the public as possible so that we're hearing from all corners of the world, or at least the region, and follow this IAP2 format. And we'll cover that here a little bit more right now. So the IAP2 has put together this spectrum of how we engage the public. And for too many efforts, we call engagement, and really what we're doing is simply informing them of what we're doing or what we've decided. And so there's this scale or spectrum that goes from informing at the lowest level to truly empowering at the highest level. And empowerment might be something you look at like people have to vote to approve the city county regional plan. That's truly giving them the power to decide, is this what we're going to do? For a lot of efforts and for a lot of this effort for the regional transportation plan, we're going to be in this middle part of the spectrum from consult to collaborate. As part of really kind of the reality of our organization, we can adopt a plan, but you all sitting around this virtual room today are those who really implement it. And so it's, so we can inform and educate, advise, but in terms of the empowerment, this is where really we'd be looking to you to step in. So hopefully we're doing you all a service through this effort. Throughout the process, though, depending on what we're about, we'll be doing many of these things: inform, consult, involve, and collaborate. On the inform, we'll be sending out using a variety of tools to let people know, hey, we're doing a regional transportation plan. Hey, this is how you can get involved. This is where you can connect. And so, or, here's, some facts that are relevant to what we're doing. And that's, part of the informing process. And then we'll engage with them at other levels. So what do we have coming up in terms of our outreach toolbox and schedule? We are going to engage with stakeholders, and we'll have a little bit more on that soon in the presentation today. We're working on branding and messaging and hope to get that finalized next month and really start putting that forward. And it's really focusing on Metro Plan as the brand, as part of the new kind of our new identity, just to raise awareness. And I think that speaks to some of that planning integrity and other credibility efforts that we need to have that as an organization, and then that can pass through to products like the regional transportation plan of those processes. So the other thing that's ongoing is the statistically valid survey. We have a meeting to review that survey tomorrow at 10. And we really hope to, we will launch this next month and conduct that. And, you know, we mentioned that this plan is going to be flexible. One of the things that it needs to flex to or about is what are the results of that statistically valid survey? What are the questions we're asking? And how can we build off of that and complement and supplement the work there in that survey? We plan to have a website hosted at the metroplanflg.org site, our home website for this project. I'm getting that up in December. We're going to work heavily to encourage participation with most of that effort taking place in the spring of next year with a heavy Facebook focus. In conversations with the advisory group this morning, we're getting some feedback that Instagram and in some cases direct mail are also very valuable. So we're taking that under consideration. We'll look to have online surveys in January and April of next year. This will coincide with the development of the scenarios. And looking to take advantage of community events. Part of our stakeholder outreach coming up will be to inquire about community events that may be well suited for us to piggyback and seek and engage the public on the regional transportation plan. We also plan on virtual meetings corresponding with those online surveys and other events. So this is a working list of the stakeholders we want to engage. We're not going to sit down and speak with all of them. And this is a work in progress. Some will be on that informed list. They'll just get emails saying this is what's coming up, and then they can elect to engage through the website or some other means. Some will sit down with individuals. Some will collect, meet with collectively in groups. We're still hammering through that. Some like some of the service clubs you see on here, like the Rotary, will see if they want presentations, and we'll prepare those. But we'll also be enlisting groups like that and many of the groups you see on here to get the word out and really try to leverage their contact lists, their constituents to get involved in the stakeholder. We're trying to cover as many bases as possible or aspects of the community as possible with our stakeholder outreach. These are the groups that we have identified thus far. And in the spirit of flexibility and adaptation, as you all engage with this and have questions or ideas on who else we should reach out to, we're open to that. So what's coming up? As I mentioned, stakeholder engagement. We really hope to kick that off primarily with an email, just seeking some basic information, and then looking to schedule meetings in November and early December. The survey will be conducted in the first part of next month with, I think, a report towards the end of the calendar year. Branding, we should make major milestones by the end of next month and really start to see that in being manifest or presented in that project website, which I believe we're looking to launch in December. So from a technical perspective, what are some of the things that are coming up? The memorandums on the scenarios, the analysis of those scenarios. The scenarios, scenario one is that kind of business as usual. Proposition 419, 420, the existing land use plan projected out to 2045, and then its analysis against several performance metrics. And then later, scenario two gets developed with evaluation against those same metrics and really pushing scenario two towards what it takes to meet targets. There'll be equity and accessibility analysis. Those methodologies are being developed and really looking at from any given traffic analysis zone, which is, we have about 400 of them, so they really get fairly granular. what's the ability to access by any mode a variety of services. And particularly we want to look at, how our Title VI communities, low income, minority, disabled, do they have an equitable accessibility? So then this memorandum on enhanced sustainability is really taking a look at the broader range of travel demand management options, and then the final plan. As far as a lot of technical work is done, most of the data collection is done. We're cooperating with the city on developing city and county on these regional snapshots on a wide range of topics. We're focusing naturally on transportation. We're really updating the model up to 2019, and then preparing for this future forecasts. And then those are the kind of the technical things going along besides the public involvement plan. So with that, see if there's any questions. I think we're looking for general support for the direction. And I'll look to Miles. Are we looking for a formal motion for this, Miles, or just general head nods and grunts of support?
I think we're just looking for direction, and if the TAC wishes to take a formal vote, they can.
Well, opening up for discussion. Any questions or comments for Dave or Jeff? No.
Does anybody have concerns about the direction we're heading? Okay.
No.
Great.
Mr. Chair, this is Ann, can I just make a comment?
Go ahead, Ann.
Just kudos to Dave for outlining really clear the stakeholder pathway you have and identifying how you're going to identify those stakeholders, whether they're, that spectrum that you identified. So I just, maybe one suggestion for the board meeting, if it's not too much work, is on that other slide where you had all those stakeholders listed, you could put, where they're at in are they informed, consent, feedback, or whatever those increments are. Or you might be able to categorize them that way. Or maybe that's not the best way to do that compared to, I don't know, just think about that from a, which groups you're kind of informing and others you're working more.
We'll take that under advisement. That might be a lot of detail to share.
Yeah, but just maybe something to think about.
Thank you. Dan, I see you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to compliment you, Dave, and your project team. I think this is a great public participation plan. I really am pleased that you're using the IAP2 kind of spectrum of participation. I don't recall if you've used that in the past or not, but I think this looks like a great participation plan. So thank you for presenting it today and preparing it.
Thank you.
And for a formal motion, and from that discussion we just had a few seconds ago. Sorry, my memory's fleeting.
Do you need a
We
motion
don't.
on this, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it's agendized for action, and it sounds like we've got one, so let's just do it if the PAC is willing.
Yes, Dan, we're looking for a motion.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the public participation plan for the RTP.
Okay, do we have a second?
This is Ann, I'll second.
All right. Motion to approve by Dan Folk, second by Ann Dunham. Those in favor, aye.
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 And any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you.
And with that, kind of jumping back around, I believe that takes us back to F, the Executive Board Agenda Review. Jeff?
Yes. All right, Mr. Chairman, members of the TAC, I think Dave is starting to scroll down that draft agenda. And as you see it up on your screen, it's next Wednesday. And the first item we just discussed and you supported. The second item, B with Milton. It'll be the same report you got from me today. Calendar consideration you've just seen. Strategic advanced planning is something that I would like to get your feedback on here today. I will tell you, I wrote the staff report after the TAC packet went out. You can't take action at a TAC meeting today because it's not agendized for action, but if there's opinions, I'd like to hear them. And what it comes down to is when we do the strategic advance, does Metro Plan want to bring in a facilitator or do it in-house? It's been done in-house by me the last 2 years. And I think there's a case to be made that at least every 3 years, we got to bring in some fresh blood and take a fresh look and have somebody else facilitate. So I also know my board is very, conscious of money, and it's about a $10,000 to $15,000 expense usually to bring in a facilitator. So you all participated in the last couple of strategic advances, and you've done many of your own. And I would like to hear any feedback on if you think it's time to bring somebody else in, or if you think doing it in-house still works.
Discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, could I maybe ask that question? Oh, Dan's got a comment.
Go ahead, Dan.
I wait and give others a chance, But I guess part of that, Jeff, I think would depend on what you want to achieve out of the advance, right? If it's, every year you're looking to advance, right? Metro Plan, but if it's kind of a big restructuring or big long-term visioning versus kind of a check-in, maybe that helps you decide if you need that facilitator or not. I think you've done a good job running the advance, and I've found them to be useful and productive.
Okay, thanks for the feedback.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I could maybe pose the question in a little bit different way, and I appreciate the comment that Dan just made. I agree. I think the advances have been useful and productive. Do you feel that it's perhaps time to push a little harder, stretch a little harder than perhaps somebody on the inside can do, where somebody on the outside can perhaps be a little more direct in challenging assumptions or self-imposed limitations, and see if we want to push harder in terms of some of the things that we might want to achieve?
I think that's a good question, Dave. Part of the challenge, I think, with facilitators is, could a facilitator who's not a transportation expert lead that discussion? What kind of prep would that facilitator have to push on, I guess, ideas a little harder? Again, I think a lot of it depends on what all of you want out of it as the staff and as the executive director.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to that. I think my standard at this point would just to go back and do what we did last year and continue that planning cycle. Here's what you said you want us to do. Here's what we did. What do you want us to do now? And we just keep rolling it forward. I think to the question of, is there something bigger we need to look at? Well, and trying to be as inclusive as possible. Sometimes an outside facilitator can ask that question in a way that I can't. Sometimes organizations need, a fresh blast of air from the outside because staff get insular. And, you know, I'm not suggesting that Metro Plan staff is getting insular and we're getting rigid, but I also don't want to just assume everything's fine and I just keep doing this, because it could get pretty, there's a risk that it start to get pretty myopic. So that's why I just want to have the open discussion now. I'm not trying to create problems that don't exist, but I'm also very open. If this TAC says, you know what, we really think it's time to bring in somebody else, I'll take that under advisement. I'll share it with the board. If this group is like, you know, we're doing okay, we're not looking at any big changes, so why don't we just save the money and keep steaming ahead this year? I'll take that to the board, or anything in between. So I hope that's helpful to the discussion. Thank you.
And I'll jump in. This is Jason James from participating last year in moderating a couple of the talks last year. I didn't feel that, you know, that there wasn't good quality discussion or there was a need to kind of push a little bit harder. I feel that the leadership, you know, definitely were giving their comments, definitely were putting out some more perspectives and ideas to kind of expand a little bit on a lot of the priorities in the Metro Plan region. So I don't feel it's time. I see what you're saying, Miles, and I see what you're saying, Dave, but I didn't get that feeling last year or even this year that Metro Plan has reached a point where it's like, okay, it's time to kind of push it to another level as far as getting someone else to kind of push a little harder. You know, that time may come, but it's not now. I believe that the job that your in-house staff have done with moderating the strategic planning sessions have been very well done, and continue doing it within in-house. So that's my opinion there.
I fully agree with what Jason said. I'm fully supportive of that.
Okay, that's helpful feedback.
Any other?
All right, I'm going to, please.
I think we're good. Go ahead, Jeff.
All right, thank you. The next item is the executive director evaluation. Just as an update, the board needs to evaluate me every year based on my most recent contract. So they're going to be discussing how they do that. So that's on the agenda. And then STSC, which this group has already discussed. And then finally, just some items, transportation planner. Dave, do you have any news on that you want to share?
Yeah, thank you, Miles. So we have made an offer to Mandia Gonzalez. Mandia, and she has accepted. Mandia is the transportation planner for NACOG. So my apologies to NACOG. They're losing a very good employee. And congratulations to us. We're gaining a very good employee. Really excited to have her on board. She'll start middle of next month, and really want to get her involved in any number of projects, including West Route 66. We want to do some environmental looks at Lone Tree, wrap up a couple other things, and of course, support their regional transportation plan. So excited to have her on board and expand the capacity of the organization and the service that we can provide to all of you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, and congratulations, and my condolences to NACOG as well. And thank you to NACOG. Next item is the mini grant. That mini grant is out, and we're looking for responses by the end of the week, and should have a recommendation hopefully by the next meeting if all goes well. I think people know that we, Metro Plan, received recognition from AMPO earlier this month. And then my board the Metro Plan board has to elect officers after the first of the year. And I think it's probably good to determine if we need to elect TAC officers again at the first of the year. If so, we should put it on November's agenda. And Mr. Chairman, I think this is probably a good segue with election of officers to see if there's other news from any of our current officers and just to share a little bit about, where we might be headed with our TAC going forward.
Yes, absolutely. I will go ahead and make my announcement first. And then I believe there's another one that's a new one that I did not know about. So we'll let whoever needs to chime in. But I am sorry, Metro Plan TAC, that I have loved being here, but I am leaving the county. So I will no longer be able to be on the TAC. I am going to private engineering, and 2 days from now, this Friday is my last day at the county. So thank you all. It's been a blast working with all of you. I'm staying in Flagstaff, and I will be reconnecting with all of you from the dark side, as they say. So back to kind of jumping in earlier from the other recent movings. Unfortunately, I've been chair here, and I'm also vice chair in NACOG TSC. So they're also losing a person there too, but we'll need to figure out the leadership of the TAC here. So
Congratulations, Nick.
thank you.
Congratulations, and thank you for your service.
Okay, well, I guess I'll jump in then. This is Jason James, and so just make it official publicly. So I applied and interviewed for Dan Gabbio's previous position as regional planning manager, and as official as late last week, I got the position. So moving up with ADOT. So you'll still see me. You'll still be in contact with me. I'll still be in the transportation world, ADOT world, but we'll have a new planner for representative MPD for ADOT MPD for the Metro Plan region, probably in place by about January. So I'll still be around, still be in contact, but yes, that's where I'm going. And also just I just a little bit of a funny aside. So NACOG has literally lost their last two transportation planners, one going recent to Metro Plan, and then I was the one previous before Mandy. So I think NACOG's just a training ground to like go other places, I guess. I don't know. So
And a fine training ground it is.
Yes. so anyways, just want to let everyone know. Thank you.
Congratulations, Jason.
Thank you. And congrats to you, Nick.
Thank you. And Chair Hall, I think at this point I should just ask, has anyone in the room not been promoted since the last meeting? Congratulations to both of you. And we will need to elect new officers since you are our chair and vice chair, and then be able to jump right into the role at the next meeting. So if you all as TAC members would consider if you're willing to serve, and we'll be communicating through email in the next couple of weeks. Thank you.
I think that back to our main agenda with Jeff. Are there any other future items you wanted to hit?
I don't have any, but I would ask if anyone on the TAC has a future agenda item or staff.
All the usual suspects, Mr. Chair. We'll be updating on the regional transportation plan. Hopefully have some good news, good news on the progress of the survey. We won't have the results, but the survey, the stakeholder outreach, as we outlined today. Task number 3, the model update. We should also have significant progress on that to report on. I don't know of anything. Look to Jason. Is there anything in the ADOT world that we are going to need to respond to coming up?
Coming up, no. The only thing that and again, I will reach out to you and Miles and Rosie offline on this one. No, we got some studies that are coming up real soon. One of them is a state rail crossing study. So I know they're doing some outreach to our COGS and MPOs right now on that. So again, I'll reach out offline to you. Maybe proposing a quick presentation on that, and then some other state studies too that are starting to come up that may be of interest to the Metro Plan region. So, but again, I'll contact you on that one.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason. And you might inquire of, I think it's Heidi Jakob, whether the state freight plan might have an update that would be valuable. It might be early days yet, but you could inquire of that for us. That'd be great.
Absolutely. I got that noted down. Okay. I'll follow up with you.
Any other items? Okay. And I think I kind of covered items from the committee. Our next scheduled TAC meeting will be November 17th at 1:30. Hopefully I'm still here to just pester you all, but I will not be here in my official role. So thank you all, everyone. And with that, then unless there's anything else, we'll go ahead and move to adjourn. Nice early time of 2:43 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Sol.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.